Hello and welcome everybody back to the Inside Our Galaxy podcast. I'm your host, Eric Hernandez. As always, we got to talk about our two games that had happened. One in the Open Cup where we end up getting eliminated by RSL 3-2, and then you have our MLS matchup. I wish it was MLS Cup, but MLS matchup against St. Louis City, where we end up stealing a point in St. Louis, 1-1. Daniel Aguirre gets a goal in that one. And we got a couple games to cover and recap. And then we also have a little bit of a preview against Kansas City, which will happen, well, as we're recording in about a week and a half. They will upload this episode a little later. But the point is, we also are going to talk about our next matchup against Kansas City. And this should be a good conversation, good episode. And a lot of things to talk about. I mean, there is a lot of things to talk about with the amount of games we have. But let's just get right into it. And with me, as always, is my co-host, LA Galaxy Central. How you doing, man?
Yeah, I'm doing great. I'm really enjoying my time in Europe right now, and I'm very happy to take the time to be here right now.
Yeah, I forgot to mention live from Europe, live from Italy,
Yeah,
is LA Galaxy Central. But yeah, I hope you're enjoying your vacation so far, and thank you for tuning in during your vacation. It's
it's
not
great.
easy.
Yeah, it's
You
part
know,
of it.
yeah. But it's good that you're here. I did want to ask a couple questions before we get into our stuff. One is, how are the Italian people feeling right now? Because it has not been a good week for them. I mean, they went 0-3 in European competitions. The U20 Italian team lost in the final for the World Cup. How are the Italian people feeling right now? It's probably not good for them right now.
Well, I'm not close to Milano, luckily, so there's not many Inter Milan fans around here. But for the U20 World Cup, there's obviously some disappointment, but also some people are proud because it is a youth program and the kids looked really good. And our senior national team has not been very good. They've been pretty washed, kind of similar to the Mexican national team a little bit. I think we kind of have similar problems, but I think we're a little bit better in quality. But yeah, it's good to see like we have a good future, but it is a little disappointing to lose that tournament. But I mean, we can only build on that now.
Yeah, really, and not only just the Champions League final, but also like Europa League and Conference League. Italian teams made the final and they all lost.
Yeah.
It really wasn't a good. I get I don't know, it's kind of not disappointing because they all made the final, but it sucks because they lost. All of them lost the final.
Hey, but
but
but the team I support won the Italian league though, so I'm doing all right.
you're doing good. So, but
That's
anyway,
their
what part of
problem.
Italy? What part of Italy are you at right now? I didn't
Right
ask.
now I'm right now I'm at Venezia, but I'm gonna be going to an island called Sardinia tomorrow, which has really
Oh,
nice beaches. So yeah, I'm kind of going along, but it's very nice.
all right, that's pretty cool. I wish I could go travel to another country. That'd be cool one day.
We
Um,
can go to San Jose together.
yeah, that's already another country in itself. No, I'm just kidding. But but anyways, yeah, enough for the Italian talk, I guess. But let's get right into our recaps. Let's talk about the U.S. Open Cup game first because we lost that one. We get eliminated from the U.S. Open Cup in the quarterfinals once again, 3-2, and yeah, another close game, another high scoring game. I did go into that game saying that I thought it was going to be much of a low scoring game, but still close. But it ended up being just the same thing, 3-2. But it ended up just going into RSL's favor. We went down 2-0 in the first half. Then they ended up scoring a little bit into the second half, and then we were sort of brewing a comeback again. We ended up getting two goals, and then it wasn't enough. We didn't get the comeback again, and yeah, it's 3-2. It's disappointing, but there was, I guess, some positives to it. Considering there was a comeback, but what are your thoughts about the U.S. Open Cup game? How'd you feel about that one?
Yeah, I'm pretty disappointed because, like we were saying in other episodes, we thought this was a very winnable tournament. And right now, we don't really have much to play for. So we wanted to go all into that tournament and we fell up short. We got out of it. And it's pretty disappointing. I thought we could have won it, but we didn't play good enough on the day. RSL was a little bit better than us. They took a few more of their chances. I respect the fight that we made. Like, we could have just rolled over. It could have been 3-0, but at least we showed some effort to get back into the game. But it wasn't enough. So, I mean, I guess we just have to move forward with that. But it is disappointing to go out of that tournament when there was a real chance we could have possibly done well in it. Not that I thought we would have won it, but when you looked at the other teams, you thought it was a manageable tournament.
Yeah, that I had felt that going into that game, and we had felt that just in general, this was a manageable tournament, but at the same time, RSL was a good. It's not an easy a place to go play. They are a good team, and again, I respect the fight about it. I really did respect the fight that the Galaxy gave, and we can also talk. And the same thing is also with St. Louis, but we'll get into that in a bit. But Yeah, I mean, of course, there is a fight into it. I mean, this team, we said it before, is a very emotional team. They could have just fell down and not do anything for the rest of the game. It could have been 3-0, but yeah, I mean, we gave a fight, which was something that I respected. I will say, I think we did get sort of screwed over with that penalty before the first half ended. I mean,
That was bad. Yeah.
yeah, I mean, I don't know how you call that a penalty. I get it, how they had his arms around him, but it really was a soft call. And I really think that was sort of the thing about the point of the game, the moment of the match where it really just went into RSL. They get 2 goals in the first half, so that kind of gave them momentum going into the rest of the game. And yeah, I mean that penalty screwed us over, but I mean, what are you going to do? Bad calls are going to happen in games, and but yeah, I mean, again, I respect the fight. I respect some of the players that gave it their all, and you can tell there is a little bit of a mentality shift within this team, and I think especially in that game, you kind of saw there is a bit of a shift with this team's mentality, and that's the only positive part about it. But yeah, I am disappointed that we could have possibly gone farther, but I mean, it is what it is, and it just sucks that we get to the same place like we were last year, out of the quarterfinals.
Yeah, I've seen a mentality shift the last 3 games, really, not just this game. And as for the penalty call, it was a very soft call. It was not very good. But when you don't have VAR, I mean, the referee has to make a decision, and I mean that's what he made up. He couldn't really do anything about it if he wanted to call that. I mean, he did that. There's no other way to turn it around. So I guess what the best thing you can do is just not put yourself in position to get penalties called against you.
Yeah, which by the way, I didn't even know that US Open didn't have VAR. I thought they did. Like
Nah, they never did. They should though. I think
I
every
mean, yeah,
league
I
should
think
at
they
least.
should now, but I didn't know that. Like, I really didn't know that. I thought there was instances where they did use it, but I guess not. I guess that was just made up in my mind. But I mean, yeah, I didn't know that, and yeah, it kind of sucks because like a lot of people don't like VAR because like sometimes it makes these bad decisions. But then when you see decisions like this, you're like, man, I really wish there was VAR. Like, like there is like kind of like a win lose or lose win situation with VAR. So it's like this was kind of the ones where it was like, oh man, like we wish there was VAR in this situation, but there wasn't. Which again, what can you do? Like you said, the ref had to make a call no matter what, and that was the call he made, even though it was a pretty soft call.
I guess it just depends if it goes against or for your team, how much you like VAR on that day.
That is true though. Like it really just depends on how you view it. Like I said, I've always said VAR stinks. It could be better, but I'm never opposed to VAR. Like I think it's a good thing to have a review system. It's just that there's some flaws to it, but I'd rather have some review system than no review system, in my opinion. That's just my opinion. Of course, a lot of people have like differences on it, but regardless, that was the call, and it wasn't a good call. Again, I think this was also another game where the subs really made a factor into this game. It's kind of what brought us back into that game as well. I mean, you had Douglas Costa who scored a goal, a banger in that game. We had another. Did we have a penalty in that game as well? Right?
Yeah, Gary drew it, and I think he was a sub too.
Yeah, there you go. So, yeah, there you go. So, like, we had another penalty in that one, and like you said, Gear drew the penalty. So, like, yeah, I mean, I think this is another game where the subs have stepped up and even in the St. Louis game a little bit too, which we'll get into. But like, I think another thing too is that you're seeing a lot more production off the bench, and I think that's a good thing from this Galaxy team because we haven't really seen that this season, and we kind of question our depth a little bit, and our depth is kind of stepping up a little bit, or it's at least going in the right direction. But
Yeah, it's good to see our depth step up. But one big problem I'm noticing with this team is the defense. I said on my story before, like I really don't like this young defense. I think one of the defenders needs to go, whether that's Aude, Caligari, or Neil. Like not go as and off the team, just go as and maybe be a substitute. And I think that guy right now is Neil. I just don't like this very young defense because I don't think they stay compact together very well, and I think they make too many mistakes. And you're seeing that through these last full games.
yeah, I mean, I guess that's always the thing about a young defense is like one, they have the fire like in them, they have the energy because they're so young, but then also you have the mistakes because they're so new and they're so
They are.
they're so fresh for the season, right? And yeah, I mean, I think having a young defense is a good thing, but I understand where you're coming from. Like we have to limit some of these mistakes, but personally, I would kind of disagree. I'd say keep the young defense, let them get their minutes because that's only going to make them better. But I do kind of see where um the conversation is like with that. Like I definitely see your point. Of course, we can talk a little bit about the offense because the offense has not been that great. Of course, in that Open Cup game, we did lose Chicharito due to ACL tear in his right knee, which, of course, speedy recovery to him. Hopefully, he gets everything good. But yeah, I mean, we lose Chicharito for the rest of the season. I mean, there's no other way about it. I mean, it's a 6 to 9 month recovery for ACL, and even if miraculously we make the MLS Cup, I don't even think he would like be ready for that either. So, like, like it really his season's over, and we lose a good piece regardless if he hasn't been as productive. Um, we still miss a leader. We still miss a guy like Chicharito, and the offense right now has just not been clicking. So, yeah, I mean, I think offenses again was another issue, even though we had 2 goals, but they didn't come from offensive player. Well, I mean, Douglas Costa was a winger, so I guess one did, but like before that, like it was, we haven't really gotten much from our front three, which is kind of disappointing as well.
Yeah, it has been disappointing, and I feel really bad for Chicharito because I knew he cared a lot. I knew he wanted to turn the season around, and now he's not going to have the opportunity to, which is very disappointing. But as for the team, I think not to say like this is good for the players, but at the same time, just like on the field, I do think this is kind of good because we need to learn how to play without Chicharito, anyways. Considering he's probably not going to be back next year, I do think these players need to learn how to play together a little bit more, and you might as well get a head start right now. I mean, right?
I mean, if you want to look at it that way, yeah, I mean, I guess you have a point, but even then, you still miss your I guess your guy, the face of the team. But even then, like, yeah, I do agree. Like, at some point we're gonna have to get used to not playing with him. But it just sucks that it had to come this way. Like
Yeah, it does.
I really didn't wish that it had come to this because having an injury is always like a shitty thing. Like you just don't want to see any player get an injury, like no matter what. Like it really does suck. But yeah, I mean, you missed that, and now Dejan is going to be your starter at least for now. Depending what they evaluate, because I do have some opinions about our striker position, which is, I definitely think we got to go for one. I definitely think we got to go for one after Chicharito goes down. So, because honestly, I don't trust Dejan as our starter, and we've kind of said this before. He hasn't been that good. We've seen his win percentage as a starter, and yeah, I think we got to go for another one in this transfer window or this summer window somehow. But we got to go for one, definitely.
As for the striker position, I would not get someone in the summer because I just think our summer options are kind of desperate, kind of forcing it, and just pretty mediocre overall. I'd rather wait to the offseason to get a DP striker, bring someone high caliber and someone who's not old, someone who's proven in another league, another good league. And I think that would really help this Galaxy team. Like I was really hoping for Jovic to be the starting striker because then that would open up 2 DP contracts at other positions. But yeah, like you said, I don't think it's working. And he's had a handful of games and he's more than like proven that he can't get it done.
Yeah, I mean, and yeah, I just don't see it. Like I think, and it kind of sucks because we said it before. Like we want Dejan to succeed, we want him to be the guy, but right now he just hasn't shown that, and that's kind of the frustrating part about it. And even in the St. Louis game as well, like he didn't really show as much. Which I don't know. I guess we can talk a little bit about the St. Louis game,
Well,
unless
I
you
have
have.
one more thing. Yeah, I
Yeah,
have one more thing to say.
yeah.
For like Chicharito, like, was this injury kind of building up though? Because like through many different episodes, you and I were kind of talking about like how Chicharito didn't look physically right. Like we kept saying that over and over. It started with his hamstring injury. Then like he played pretty poorly during the whole season. He never looked like his like 2021 or 2022 self. He looked like a shell of himself. Maybe he was trying to play through something for the better of the team and just couldn't handle it anymore. And it's just Achilles just popped in that moment, or I don't know what happened.
Well, it wasn't Achilles; it was an
No, yeah,
ACL.
ACL. Yeah, my
Yeah,
bad.
yeah, yeah,
ACL. Yeah.
yeah. It was an ACL tear, which I don't know because I don't think it was that. I don't think it was Chicharito trying to play through something. He did come off an injury, but it was his calf. I think it was when he was injured. But
I thought it was his
no,
hamstring.
was it hamstring or was it calf? I don't remember. It was one. It was definitely in the leg for sure, somewhere in the leg. But no, I mean honestly, it's just the instance of it happens. Injuries like this happen. I don't think this was Chicharito trying to force something. I think it was just the matter of yeah, like I think it's his knee pop or his knee pop. The ACL just tore, and while trying to get that ball, and it just happened to tear. Like I mean, injuries happen like this. It's not something that. And even if he was trying to force something, I'm pretty sure somebody would tell him to hey, like you gotta like chill for a little bit. You can't really go through it. I understand like there's some players who don't like to do that. Like, I mean, you look at Tyler Boyd, he's playing with a broken hand. Like there's players who just like, you know what, forget the pain, just I'm gonna keep playing. But I don't know. But when it comes to like considering Chicharito is your guy and is your face of the team, I'm pretty sure somebody would be like, hey, like we need you in these instances, like you gotta stop, even if he was trying to play something. But I don't think that was the case. I think it was just really just yeah, like it just unlucky for him, and yeah, he just he gets injured and now he's out. Like I don't think it was more of him trying to play through something.
Yeah, that could be. I'm always getting confused between pop and tear. Like I always like kind of mix them up a little bit. Like sometimes I say pop when the right word is tear and like vice versa.
Yeah, because pop is more like your bone or something. Like
Like
tear
your
is
Achilles is pop, like your ACL is tear. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. So it just depends on the body part, I guess.
I'm
And
not a doctor, I guess, for a
yeah, I
reason.
mean, I was a kinesiology major at one point, but I didn't really learn as much. But but anyways, yeah, like I mean, it really does suck for Chicharito in this instance that he gets injured. But yeah, I
I
mean,
mean,
I guess it is what it is.
I
But
mean, I know Dejan played bad, but like, I don't know. I feel like if Dejan Joveljic sees this, like, he really has to know, like, he really has to step up, and he's getting another opportunity. He started the first 8 games of the season, I think 7 or 8 games, something like that, and it was honestly a massive failure. He played really bad, and we didn't get any wins when he was starting those first games of the season. And now is a second chance for him, a long second chance for him that honestly he doesn't deserve. So, I mean, if he's getting the second chance, I really think he should be really as motivated as you can be to try to strive in it. But so far in game one of the post Chicharito injury, that has not happened.
yeah, which let's talk about that game one of the post Chicharito injury, which was St. Louis. We ended up going to St. Louis on Sunday, a very early game that day. It was 10 a.m. here, but it was like noon over there. But yeah, we had an early matchup in St. Louis. We end up stealing a point, 1-1 in that game. Daniel Aguirre scores, like I mentioned in the beginning. And again, it was I will say this about St. Louis. I'm not disappointed about it because it is an away point. We stole a point against a really tough team, against the number one team in the West right now, right? So I'm not fully disappointed about it. Like I said, the mentality of this team has shifted. They did come back in this game to steal that point, and in the last minutes of the game too. So like, yeah, I mean, of course, I'm not disappointed about St. Louis. We weren't as effective offensively. I think we still had like a solid game considering that St. Louis could probably have put up more goals on us, but they didn't. And our defense was solid that day. Our offense was kind of lacking, but still they were trying to get something going. And yeah, we ended up stealing a point in St. Louis, which was not too disappointing. I'll take that point. But yeah, I mean, how'd you feel about St. Louis? What were your thoughts about that game?
Yeah, I thought it was a great point from that game when you saw us go down 1-0. Like we've seen many times this season, the Galaxy kind of just folded. They've lost 3-0, 2-0. They've never got back into games. And this time in a tough place to play against the number one seed in the Western Conference, they managed to find a goal. I mean, Douglas Costa will get into him a little bit later, but he was spectacular that day. He created that goal. Daniel Aguirre put it in. It's a great point to get on the road. A lot of people played pretty solid. A lot of people still need to step up, but getting a point away from home in a tough place to play is something I'll always take, especially going back home now. Hopefully we can find something there.
Yeah, I mean, which yeah, we can talk about that because so far we've played better than we had recently, and
Well, it's not saying much, but it
I
is
mean,
better.
yeah, that it really isn't saying much. But I will say that we haven't played at home yet, so that could be a different story. But we'll get to that in can't for the Kansas City preview. But yeah, for St. Louis, I really think that there was some good aspects of it, and yeah, I mean, it's not an easy place to play. St. Louis has kind of made themselves known at this point that they're a soccer town, they're a soccer city, and they have good atmosphere, they have good fans, they have a good team, and they're gonna ride with that. And whenever you have like a city behind them and you have like a bunch of fans behind them, it makes it a tough place to play. And again, we went in there, we went down at one point, which was a good goal by St. Louis, by the way. We ended up going down, and then we steal a point, and that's something that you can't be disappointed about. And yeah, again, this was another game where the subs really did their thing. Of course, Daniel Aguirre came off the bench, and he was the one who got the goal. And you know, it is kind of crazy though, because we did talk about Dejan a little bit before, but it is kind of crazy that you take him out. Like I think it was like what the 70th minute, right? Like
It,
around
it
that.
was a lot later than that, I think.
It was
I
maybe it
swear
was
it's a lot later.
maybe it was like 75, maybe toward more towards 80, but I
Yeah, I think that's more towards 80, but I
but
could be wrong.
but it's kind of crazy to think about that at that point in the game, you need a goal and you need somebody to make a goal at that point, and you take them off. Like that kind of says something about about Dejan right now as well, which is kind of crazy. But regardless, even then taking him out and then putting other players in ended up working. So Yeah, I mean, I don't know. It really that game was kind of just like, I'm not disappointed about it. I think it was just more of a team effort rather than just one single player in that game.
Yeah, you know what else is also crazy? Efrain Alvarez getting 10 seconds of game time. Like, bro, come on, dude. Like, if I'm Efrain Alvarez, I'm actually pissed at that. Like, that's kind of disrespectful, in my
That
opinion.
that was yeah, that was kind of crazy. Like it really made no sense to have him been there, and it was just man didn't
10
even touch the
seconds, man.
ball. Like I mean, I don't know. It's just like as a player, I'd be like, you know what, just keep me on the bench at this point. Like I'm not
Seriously.
like
Like 10 seconds, man. Like, come on. Not even 5 minutes, like 10 seconds. He got
yeah,
it in. Like, seriously, it was 10 seconds.
yeah. I'll take a minute. Like I'll take a minute, but like, but like 10 seconds, like or I think it was a little more. It was probably like 20, but still though, like those amount of seconds, like, well, what's the point? Like, well,
It's not
what
5 minutes. Don't bother. That's kind of my thing.
yeah, like I don't know. It just seemed unnecessary, and yeah, I would be offended by that too. But I mean, oh well. I guess it is what it is. But I guess we can talk a little bit about players from like both that from these two games. How'd you feel about some players like in this game? We've kind of touched on about a few of them, but who stood out to you within these two games?
I feel like Delgado has been really poor lately, not really connecting passes and not really being as good as he was last season. He's someone like, especially with Chicharito going out, we're going to need to see a lot more on the ball and producing a bit more.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, Delgado hasn't really been that great these past few games, and I agree with that. Like, I don't know what's up with him. I just think he's just not as there right now. But I don't know that to me that he was one player that I felt like that. Yeah, he hasn't played as well. Um, but yeah, I mean, I don't know, like that he just hasn't played well. Like, and we need our midfield to play good because our midfield is sort of the core of our team and the bright spots of our team. And if one person in that midfield isn't playing well, then for the most part, our midfield isn't really going to play well because those three guys. I mean, they have a really good connection. Those guys, like their chemistry is really good, and if you have one guy not performing to his expectations, then that's going to be a problem for a midfield as well, which kind of
Yeah.
worries me. But hopefully Delgado kind of does bring it back a little bit. I don't know. Like there wasn't that many players that disappointed me in these two matches. I think I don't know. It was just more of a little bit more of players kind of stepping up and being a little more into the positive side.
I have
Um,
one more disappointment if you want me to share it.
Go ahead. I want
I
to hear
feel I feel like Caligari was kind of disappointing. He's still like playing very far back, getting beat a lot, not really winning challenges, sometimes not connecting passes as he should, not getting forward, getting crosses in. I feel like he's a player that's been kind of disappointing for us.
I think Caligari has been a little bit inconsistent in my opinion. Like I think he has those games where he's like, oh man, like he's really good. Like this is what we need him to play. And then there's those games where it's like, oh, like yeah, Caligari's getting beat. He's not going forward as too much. And like yeah, Caligari is one of those players. I think it's not that he's bad. I think he's just a little bit inconsistent in my
Yeah,
opinion.
true. Yeah, I can.
Um,
That's a fair point.
but you know what? Let's talk about another Brazilian though
Oh
that
my, yes.
that right now has kind of like I don't want to say shut us up because he still has a
No,
lot more
not
to
yet.
do. Not yet, but he still has a lot more to do. But this was a person that you had said that like, hey, once he gets in the game, like he might make a difference for us. And I didn't believe you because for the most part, we haven't seen this guy really do anything, and we haven't really seen him be on the field as much because whether it's injury or suspension, whatever the case may be. But
Vacation.
Douglas Costa gets a goal in the U.S. Open Cup to bring us one back in that game, and then you had this man giving the tying assist for the St. Louis game, and right now he's been playing good. Like I generally think Douglas Costa has been playing good, and he's a guy that I think has again we need to see more of it. And if this is how he's going to play, I mean, great. This is why we brought him in, but yeah, Douglas Costa has been playing good, and it kind of shocks me a little bit. But yeah, I mean, you saw it. Like, how'd you feel about Douglas Costa these past couple games?
Yeah, Costa's been playing great. Not only just the goal and assist, but overall, I think he's doing a lot of really good things, putting in the effort now. Like, remember that Orlando game? He was just walking for a whole half. You and I were even saying we could have done that, which we could have. I mean, we're not seeing that anymore. Now we're seeing him running. We're seeing him taking on players. We're seeing him attempting to make good passes. They're not always coming off, but he's trying. Like, he's trying to do the right thing. He's trying to get the ball forward. He's doing what we need him to do. And it's great to see. I hope he keeps this up. But one thing with Costa is every time we have like a positive moment with him, either the next game he gets suspended or injured or both. So can we see see this for multiple games. And if we can, that's a huge boost to the Galaxy and something we really need with Chicharito out. But I guess we just got to wait and see on him because after positive moments, he has been pretty disappointing a few games after.
I do agree on that as well. But I feel like Costa kind of sees that as well, though. I feel like he knows that, hey, listen, you got one DP going out for the rest of the season. Somebody's got to step up, and it's gonna be you because we're paying you X amount of money to be the guy as well. And the Costa has done well like these past few
He has the
games.
quality to do well. It's not that he's not good enough. The effort just has to be there and the consistency.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Of course, quality. He has it. It's just a matter of being available because what they say, the best ability is availability. So having him available and having him put in the effort is going to go a long way for Costa and could go a long way for the team. It really can because he has made a difference in these past couple games. But yeah, I mean, I've kind of been shocked by Costa these past couple games, considering that he actually, for back-to-back games, he contributed to a goal, which is something we haven't seen like at all, I think, really from Costa. But yeah, I mean, that's something that I really, hopefully he keeps it going and hopefully he's kind of turned a new leaf. But like you said, there's been instances where he does something positive and then the next week it's something really negative and something bad. So hopefully he keeps it up. That's one thing I would
I do
want to
feel
see.
like I really do feel like the Chicharito injury could like make him play better because I think Costa respects Chicharito a lot out of everyone on the team. And obviously, I think he's really sad that he went down with an Achilles. So maybe he's going to want to step up just for him. Maybe that'll motivate him extra. Or at least I hope so.
I mean, I hope so. And I think just in general, it's like, like I just think that Costa's now realize that he has to step up because at the end of the day, like because Chicharito right now was one of those guys that a lot of people blames because he wasn't performing. Now that he's out of the equation, who's the next guy they're going to go after? It's most likely going to be Douglas Costa to be the guy who's saying like, "Hey, if we get a bad result, it could be this guy's fault, or it's because he's not producing." So I think Costa realizes that too. It's like, "Hey, like I'm going to be the next guy up to be called out," and he's already been called out a lot this season and his tenure here. So it's like the fact is that you're going to be the next guy to be called up in those bad moments for this team. It's like I think Costa realizes that and he's not going to want to hear more of that. So I think he has that sort of aspect of like, hey, I got to try better now. Like I can't just be this guy who's the bad part of the team or the negative part of the team. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I feel like with Chicharito out, Costa has to be the second best player on this team, especially when you look at the attack. This attack is a very weak attack, and he really has to step up for it just to be a little bit better.
Right. Yeah. I definitely do agree. But yeah, I mean, Costa though 2 games in a row where he contributes a goal. I'm not bad. I'm not sad about that. That's a good thing about Costa. But um, any other players you want to talk about? I mean, anyone that stood out to you?
I feel like against St. Louis, Neil was very poor. I mean, you saw like the first goal, not the first goal, that wasn't really his fault. That was just a great goal. But then you saw another one where he almost got beat and Bond made a great save. And then you saw obviously the horrible touch St. Louis was through on goal. They almost scored there. So I feel like Neil played really poor, which is why I'm not necessarily a fan of the young defense. I'd rather have a guy like Mavinga in there, maybe just for a few games, try to shape it up the defense a little bit more, just to have another veteran in there. But I still like Neil as a player. I think he's pretty good, but he did play pretty poorly against St. Louis.
Yeah, especially that one where he tried to bring the ball down and then like
Yeah, it was that one.
the touch wasn't there and could have been another goal. I don't know how that was another goal by St. Louis, but yeah, that was won by that. I don't know. Like I said, the young defense for me is just kind of like I get it. They're gonna make mistakes, but that's kind of the part about a young defense is that they're just gonna make mistakes. But I don't know. Like I can see it for a few games. For a few games, like I don't think it's like a full on switch. Like, hey, like Neo, you can't be the starter anymore. I don't think it's to that point.
No, not like that. No.
But if you want a point where it's like, hey, like let's start Mavinga or whoever in this case, like, yeah, I mean, I could see it for a few games. Who's another? There was one player that kind of just disappointed me a little bit. I forget who it was, but um,
Starter.
it might have been a start. Um, I was gonna say Tyler Boyd a little bit, but I don't know because
He
like
was all right.
yeah, I think he was okay. Like I don't want to say he was bad, but I don't know. Yeah, I mean overall, I mean I guess it just wasn't like that much of a like I said, player wise, I don't think it was individual performances that kind of made these 2 games, but it was just more of a team effort. Um, You know what? One thing that I did want to say about the Open Cup game was it was kind of interesting putting Klinsman in for that game rather than Bond, but I don't know why that was the situation. But other than that, I mean, I really don't have much of to say about players other than
I
that.
mean, to put it pretty simply, through these games, Jovic was the big standout disappointment, and Costa was the big standout, just positive from those games.
Yeah, I'd say that to be honest, and yeah. Which, by the way, for the next game against Kansas City, we won't even have Joveljic in there because he'll be off on international duty, which is going to be
Oh God.
it's going to be an interesting thing to see with Preston Judd getting the start. But yeah, you know what?
Good
It's
luck
an
to him.
opportunity for him, so I guess that's something.
Also,
Uh,
another player that I kind of like on the Galaxy that a lot of fans don't like is Chris Mavinga. I feel like a lot of fans kind of shit on him, but I think he's kind of good actually. I don't think he's that bad.
Mavinga. You know what? I will say this about Mavinga because funny enough, Crystal likes Mavinga, and it was something that like she always says that like, hey, like what I like about Mavinga is that like on the bench he's kind of like another coach, which is something
He seems good to have around. I like
yeah,
him.
yeah, it's good to have that leadership, and we've kind of said this before that we haven't really had that another leader. Like for example, like last year we had Sasha Kleshin or Victor Vasquez, which is something I still think the team needs. But like, if Mavinga is going to be that guy who's going to lead people or like be the kind of like that secondary coach, like or player coach type of deal, like like I like that too. But yeah, Mavinga hasn't been bad, and he's coming off an injury too, so maybe he'll get more minutes coming in with these few games. But yeah, he's a player that I think that is good to have around for sure.
Yeah, I think he's overhated in the Galaxy community. People act like he's like Zavaleta. I'm like, nah.
We kind of hated on him a little bit when we when he came in.
Only on the first game. Like that was the only game I was like, yeah, he was pretty bad. And that's
Yeah,
what got Neil his start for almost until this point.
yeah, but no, but yeah, I mean, I just think in general, like, yeah, Mavinga's good to have around, as a veteran, I guess. But anyways, do you want to say any other points about these two games, or do you want to move to the Kansas City game or preview that?
No, no, it's still just funny that Efrain Alvarez got like 10 seconds on the field. Like, dude, that's actually so disrespectful. Like, if
That
I was a
that
player,
is,
I'd be like, nah, man, like, come on, dude.
yeah, like,
Like 10 seconds, man. 10 seconds. Like he just walked in the field. All right, game over, shake hands. Like, come on, really? Like,
yeah,
just keep me
like,
on the bench.
yeah, that was again, that was interesting to do, but I really don't even see like tactically how that would have benefited their team. Like it really just it was no for no reason. It was just
Hey,
like
go score from half field. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. I mean that was really yeah. I don't know. That was kind of, that yeah. That to me that's unnecessary for for any coach to do to a player, but it happened.
It did.
But anyways, yeah. Those were our recaps of our two games. All right, but we can talk a little bit about Kansas City, or preview about that, even though we got like a week and a half till that game happens. But yeah, we go up against Kansas City next week. Going to be interesting because it is our first home game of the post Klein era. Um, and I'm assuming the atmosphere for that game is going to be much better than what we've seen so far this season. There will actually be people in the stands, hopefully, and hopefully it's like this. Hopefully it's like like this picture behind me where it's all full and everybody's happy, I guess. But yeah, we're gonna go up against Kansas City at home. Kansas City has been a team that's kind of turned it around a little bit. They've been getting results. They haven't been in the lower part of the table as recently. I think they still are kind of like what I think they're probably like in a playoff spot or about to be
Yeah.
in a
Yeah.
playoff spot.
They're not playing spot right now.
Oh, okay, then. So there you go. Like Kansas City has turned it around. At one point, they were like us. They hadn't had a game in like 7 games or a win in like 7 games or whatever. And
A game
yeah,
in 7 games.
yeah, a game in 7 games. But they had a win in like 7 games or whatever at one point. And they were a team that didn't look good, and now they turned it around and they're coming in here, red hot as of going right now. And yeah, it's not going to be an easy matchup. It's never been an easy matchup against Kansas City, but yeah, how do you feel about that game? How do you feel about going into that one?
This is going to be an extremely tough game because Kansas City has completely turned it around. They're just dominating opponents right now. They've won a couple games 4-1. They went up to Seattle. Where else did they go? They got a lot of results. They got Seattle. They got Portland. They got Austin. They got Minnesota 4-0. They've been very, very good. And rightly so. They've turned their season around. They've done a great job responding from that. Like they were in a similar position with us. They were actually worse than us. With a game played more, they were just really bad. The fans were frustrated. Even the captain, Johnny Russell, said, like, we can't improve this team. I don't know what we're going to do. And Kansas City have been great. They've been an opponent that's been a lot of trouble for the Galaxy, especially recently. We've had a very hard time beating them. And it's going to be a very tough game. They're good at home, they're good on the road, and it's going to be a difficult matchup. So I'm ready for it, and hopefully we get a good game from both sides.
Yeah, hopefully. And speaking, you even said Johnny Russell. That's a guy who always kills us every time we play
I think
against
he's
Kansas
out
City.
again.
Is he out again? Man,
Yeah, he is. He got injured again. Yeah,
so
but they're still very good without him, though.
yeah, they're still very good without him. They did get Pulido back from injury, who has also been a player who's, which by the way, Pulido's a guy who, like, even though he's been injured, but anytime he steps on the field, he's a guy who's always going to deliver, and he has, like, coming into the season, coming back from injury. I think he also had 2 goals like last game too. So, yeah, I mean, Kansas City has good players. They turned it around, and it's going to be a tough matchup at home, but I definitely think with the mentality shift that this team has and being at home with all the supporters back, with all the SGs and everybody, and hopefully a good crowd for that game. I just hope that that's going to be a game where the Galaxy play like how have we never seen them play this so far this season. Like I just hope that kind of gives them more motivation, and they play just much better. Even if we've lost some players and some players are still coming off of injury and stuff like that, I think that they'll have the motivation, they'll have something to play for going into that game, despite the opponent being a really tough opponent.
Yeah, it's really all about the offense because something that still worries the offense about me is like, I feel like with our offense, whatever we get is kind of just a I stepped up moment. It's not really a consistent thing. Like, for example, the Memo Rodriguez top corner goal in RSL, like, all right, how often is Memo Rodriguez going to score a top corner goal from outside the box? All right, not very often. In St. Louis, like, the Aguirre equalizer, like, yeah, that's great. Aguirre equalized, but he has 2 MLS goals. And like, how often is Aguirre going to score? Probably not very often. How often is Costa going to play like that? He's a talented player. He's capable, but like, is he really going to play like that every game? More than likely, probably not. So with the offense, it's really just for me, like, what sort of consistent, like, way can we find to score goals that's not just like, wow, a player stepped up? Like, we really need to get like something going here. And maybe at home is a good time to try to find that.
Yeah, and also, like, you mentioned it, like Kansas City has played some games where they've scored multiple goals. So it's like if they do that in this instance in this game, like you're gonna have to find a way to like keep up. Like you can't just stay. You can't be like 3-0 and just bunker down or like fall again. Like, and they're not, and this team isn't, because they already showed that, like, even with big deficits, they can come back in some sort of way. So like, but again, I think I agree with that. The offense needs to step up, and they're gonna have to find a way to keep up with that Kansas City team. And yeah, I mean, again, it's not gonna be an easy match, but again, with this being the first home game in the post Klein era, it could be different for this team and could be the just a difference maker for
You
this
know,
team
kind
going.
of, you know, kind of worries me a little bit is I feel like both sides right now, like maybe not completely, but just like when you look at the last like 6, 5 games, I feel like they're in complete opposite points. Like Kansas City lately has been winning games 4-1 often. They're scoring 4 goals. They're only letting in one for the Galaxy. I know not these last 3 games, but we've seen a lot like they're letting in 3 goals and they're scoring 0 goals. So it kind of feels like Kansas City keeps scoring all the goals and keeping them out, and the Galaxy keep conceding all the goals and not scoring. So it kind of worries me a little bit. Like Kansas City can easily do that again, like possibly worse if we're not ready to play that day.
Right. Yeah, and that's why I said, like, the Galaxy are gonna have to find a way to keep up with that Kansas City team, because if they score multiple goals, you're gonna have to find a way to win that game. And you can't and even though we've already lost a lot of points at home, you can't lose points at home at this point. Like we gotta get those wins at home, and like I said, hopefully with everything that's lined up for that game, like it becomes a good game, and this Galaxy team is ready to compete.
Yeah, I mean, if we want to turn the season around, right now is really the time to do it if we're looking to do that.
Yeah, I mean, for sure. I mean, I think we're at the halfway point, or just a little past the halfway point at this point of the
Yeah.
season. But yeah, I mean, yeah, now's the time, and you got to get those points. But yeah, I mean, again, hopefully, like, for that game, it's a really good atmosphere and a really good game to watch because of the whole thing, and having everybody back. Like, that's just something that I'm excited for. Like, I really am excited to go to that game and really watch, like, not everything be back to normal, but like just see a lot of people there and having a good time.
Yeah, unfortunately, I'll get up early for that game, but I will not be there, which kind of sucks because it is kind of the first game post Klein. I'd like to see how it's like, but I'll be watching it from Apple TV.
Yeah. I mean, it is a Wednesday game too, so maybe that might affect it, but
It could,
who
yeah.
yeah, but who knows? if it's a full house on a Wednesday, like oh yeah, like it goes to show like everybody like wanted to be here. But anyways, yeah, like I just hope it's a good game and hopefully we get those results at home. But yeah, I think that's gonna be it for the show, unless you had any other points for that game.
Yeah, it's still kind of rough though because like when I was looking at the table, we're still pretty far out of it. I know we have a game in hand over a lot of teams, but we're still like we're second to last place right now. I think Colorado currently sits in last, but we're still like 6 points behind Austin, 6 points behind, I guess, the team above them, like 7 points from other teams. Like we still have a long ways to go, so we really have to get to work right now.
Yeah, no, yeah, for sure. Like I said, if there's a point where you got to turn it around, it's got to be now, um, because we, you know, the each when each game goes by, those are points available, and if we don't get those points, then that's going to be a bad thing. But um, yeah, I mean, I just hope we get the 3 points for this game as well. Like, I mean, I really do. It would be insane if we do. Like, it really like
Insane. I don't know about insane, but it'd be
no,
good.
I mean, it would be insane in the fact that like if it's a full house, if it's a good atmosphere,
Oh,
and
it'll be
we
fun.
get
Yeah, for sure.
yeah, like it'll be like it'll be great. But no, yeah, I just hope that we get those 3 points. But anyways, I think that's gonna be it for the show. Can't thank you all enough for listening and watching. If you want to follow us on social media, follow me at Insider Galaxy on Twitter, on Instagram. Go follow LA Galaxy Central on Instagram. And yeah, I mean, thank you all for being here. And hopefully, what this next game against Kansas City is going to be a good one. But yeah, we can't thank you guys. Anything you want to say to the listeners before we go?
No, that's it. I hope this team keeps improving and starts to get results going their way.
Yeah, we all hope so. But yeah, good words to say. Anyways, yeah, thank you guys. Be a friend, tell a friend about the podcast whenever you're listening to this podcast. And I hope you all have a great rest of your day, rest of your week. And yeah, thank you guys. And Jesus.
7 words.